And welcome to Soul Simple Life Shifts. I'm Dawn, and today we are talking about the shift from lack to abundance. Again, one that most of us are aware of, but it is astounding to me all of the ways that this shows up. Also, I will say, I literally thought that I had, pretty much, I won't say mastered this, not like, I'm like independently wealthy and can never work in another day in my life. It's more like, though, that I had an ample supply, and I felt like I had come a long way in this category or this area. Even actually, even years when I didn't have money, my life was so abundant and so wealthy and prosperous that it was like sort of like that in and of itself, that limited idea of abundance was so like minuscule compared to where, the life that I was living, that I thought, I've got this one. Well, I've got to say that this last year has taught me a whole nother level of this conversation. So my point there is just to say that this is one where there's always room for more. To receive more, to not only understand that we are enough as we are, but to begin to open up to really infinite growth and expansion and potential and opportunities, and to an exponential growth, and to allow not just the shift to an abundance mindset, which is what I had titled this, but actually an abundant life that is always, again, expanding from the inside out. All right, so let's look at this. What is this shift from lack and limitation to abundance? So let me look. There are a couple of different things I have written down in terms of how we've done it before and what the whole new way forward is. And remember, these come from the introduction to my book, All Systems Go. So that book is focused, the introduction of that book is actually focused on our collective growth and expansion and trajectory. And then it breaks down into these solar, SOULAR systems that support us, that are more individual in nature. But abundance runs through all of this. And so it's important on this one to really take a look continuously over time, preferably multiple times every day, and looking at, where this shows up for you and noticing the patterns. Because what I've discovered in all the years that I've been looking at this is that there can be some really tricky ways this hides out in our energetic field, and therefore creates patterns of disruption or delay or distraction that ultimately lead us or have us in, if not lack completely, have us limiting the levels at which we can truly experience the fullness of what it means to be abundant. So how we've done it before, often many of us were raised in families or systems or circles where there was a focus on what we don't have. And again, don't think of this just in terms of financial or monetary, that's one area of lack, but think about it across the board in all areas of your life. So in some way, it is likely that you were taught that, we don't have whatever it is, good looks, money, achievement, smarts, street smarts, etc. The capacity to rise out of this particular set of circumstances. So there is an identification with lack and limitation. What in the book Cultivating Essence that I wrote, what was described there in one of those passages that was given to me as defining descriptors of limitation. So where are you focusing on statements, labels, descriptors that really are nothing but a limitation that you place upon yourself? Also, there is scarcity, the fact, or the idea anyway, that there are limited resources, that there are only so many people can benefit from wealth or from other sorts of resources. There's not ample supply. It's limited, it's finite. So the shift where we can make a whole new way together and a whole new you in terms of your living from abundance is to see it in this way, to look at life in every area of life as if there is no limit, that there are infinite possibilities, that there is a trajectory that keeps going. It just grows, keeps going, it keeps growing. It grows and grows, and often it grows faster when we connect to gratitude for what is. And we train ourselves to not see that as lack, but to be grateful. I have a toothbrush. I'm standing here in front of a mirror and I'm able to clean my teeth. And I have a shower that I just got out of that has hot water. Like little things that we have trained ourselves to just overlook or take for granted as if it's nothing. That's some kind of expectation. Instead, we can shift into gratitude, and that helps us to then expand actually the frame, the infinite possibilities that are there for us. And not in terms of us efforting or like looking at, oh, when we achieve this level here, yay, then I've made it. No, it's not that. It's literally an ongoing experience to be enjoyed, to be treasured, to be celebrated. And the more abundance creates more abundance. And there's an expanded capacity for us to be more fully who we are, to see more beauty, more abundance, more love, more peace, more amazing things in one another and in ourselves. So this shift from scarcity thinking or limited resources to sort of unlimited potential and a world where all are lifted up, where all things are raised up, and where there is continuously the availability of refinement and our ability to experience what we do have as just in such a rich, rewarding way that we feel more abundant, which creates more abundance, which attunes us to more opportunities and allows us to realize that these desires can be made manifest, can be brought forward, that we can contribute something that thereby expands things for others. So that's the idea here. This shift is all about from lack and limitation to abundance and infinite potential. So I want to give you a Soul Simple life practice today. This is one that I have used many times. I call it simply my treasure map. And it's in a set of tools that I refer to as minding my mindset. And this is one where I have really struggled. I've really made great strides, but I've historically not seen that actually the way that I was approaching something or thinking about it was in and of itself limiting either my capacity to give and receive, or it was limiting what I could create because it was too small a bucket, like whether that was, a too small a bucket to receive financial blessings, too small a container in order to really bring my vision to life in terms of my creative expression, too small of an expectation for what marriage or partnership or love or friendship could be, or parenting, or what too small of an idea about what can happen in the next hour. You see what I'm saying? So one tool you can use, or a Soul Simple life practice, is to do a treasure map. Get out a piece of paper whenever you are stuck in this idea of lack and limitation. So let's take the obvious financial for a moment. I do not have enough money to pay all my bills next month. I either lost my job or, somehow feel limited. I, got injured and I can't work, or whatever it is, or there's, the plant shut down, or etc. Somehow I feel like in a bind. Going back to the last video, I feel I am barely, if surviving at all. And so there's this constriction, shut down feeling. I certainly do not feel that I have the capacity to create. I do not feel connected to infinite possibilities, potential opportunities. I don't see it. I do not see a path forward. I do not feel abundant. I feel, worthless or in lack or limitation, like I will never dig myself out of this hole. The moment you feel that in a particular area, you get out a piece of paper and you write on there, my treasure map. Okay? And in the middle, you write down what this lack or limitation is. I do not have enough money to pay my bills. You take a moment and you envision how that feels. And you write down words next to that little statement. Crappy. I feel like a bad parent. I feel like I'm failing everybody. I feel like I'm worthless. I remember what my uncle told me once about how I was not focused and I was going to fail, etc., etc. Don't stay there too long, but capture the feeling. Give yourself just a minute to feel what it feels like. Get it out. Write the words down. Do a little doodle. I like to, this, you can tell what I like to do. I scribble. I'm like, however it feels. Like if it's, anger or rage, or if it's sadness, let that come out on the page. But again, that's just one little tiny area. Then I want you to take a moment, breathe for like this, depending on what it is, this might take 5 minutes. Sometimes you can make the shift a little quicker. And then I want you to imagine just that scenario. I can't pay my bills this month. Flip it. What's the opposite? Not just I can meet my obligations and pay my bills. Well, think of that and then expand that. I am showered down with multiple abundant blessings and surprise. So write that somewhere like out here in the expanded part of your paper. Leave room in the middle, and write some phrase that describes what that is. And feel into that for a second. Just put everything else aside. What would that feel like? So don't settle for the just meeting the bare minimum. Go beyond. What would it feel like if, and don't attach it to a specificity, more like, what would it feel like in my body and heart and mind and soul if I was to feel so free and so abundant that it wouldn't even cross my mind how I was going to pay my bills? I would be living in such a way that I would be living from abundance. I would be abundance. I would create anything that was needed, and I would be able to see the opportunities and receive fully what is there for me. What does that feel like in this particular situation or area of your life or experience? What does that feel like? Well, if I'm putting myself in that situation, I might write down something like carefree, like I can breathe, I feel alive, I feel joy, I feel things I haven't felt ever or in many years, or that I only seem to feel in one other area of my life. So capture that in words. And if you're able to use color and use types of marks and other kinds of expressions, or even in your body, feel like, what does that feel like? Like whatever that is for you, feel it. The feeling part is important here. So now you have two parts of your treasure map. You have like this experience that you've been stuck in that is, excuse me, all about the lack, the missing thing. And then you have this thing where like, whoa, like you're beyond even considering this thing that feels like impossible right now. That needs met, and you're way beyond that. What does that feel like? So now you have these two experiences. So now you want to create a map, not a map that is how I'm going to make it happen. It's kind of the opposite of that. So number one, I use the word MAP as an acronym to remind me it's momentum action pathways. Pathways, multiple pathways, like we talked about in the beginning, multiple pathways to realize with my real eyes, to see, to envision, and to embody and to become this experience up here on my treasure map, this amazing, abundant life where I am giving and receiving like to such a degree that I am freed from these chains of lack and limitation. So what are some ways that I can gain momentum in my life so that I can move more toward that? What are some actions I can take? What are some pathways that could support me? So in this case, where we are talking about a very traditional, monetary situation or financial lack or limitation, I might think, wow, I can keep my eyes open for gifts that come to me. I can look for the financial blessings however they appear in whatever way. When I'm walking down the street and I look down and see that penny and pick it up, I can be grateful for that. I can not see that as, oh, it's only 1/1000th of what I need. I can see the gift of it and celebrate it. It doesn't mean you're going to, only fixate on that, but you can free up the energy, because this is really about creating energetic pathways as well in you first, within you first. Clear the gunk. How can I? So that's another action, right? Well, I can do some energy clearing around this idea of lack and limitation. So you write that down. Or what's a pathway? Well, I can get some financial literacy and learn about how I can leverage the investments that I do have, or how I can make sure that I set myself up when I get that new job in such a way that I'm beginning to move toward more security for myself, so that I won't find myself in this same situation in the future. Or another example would be, well, in the immediate future, I need to shift from spending so much money because I'm in a bind here. And so how can I adjust, not limit myself, but adjust my actions for a short period of time in such a way that I can free up resources and allocate them differently. Another example, sorry, I got something caught in my throat there. Another example would be the idea, back to the idea of momentum. Well, how can I gather momentum here? Well, I can tap into my natural passions. My passion for life is going to naturally connect me to abundance in all of its forms, new opportunities, new friendships, new encounters, or new acquaintances or people that I come into contact with. New, I can align myself with this idea of really growing in this area of my finances and wealth creation or wealth generation or savings or security. So how can I connect to different actions, different trajectories that will give me information and help me become informed in such a way that I am naturally aligned with abundance? And as I'm doing that, how can I keep my eyes open for new associations or opportunities or circumstances that lead me to new ways of seeing this area of my life? So when you get going on this, remember, what you're doing here is you're minding your mindset, but you're also creating for yourself beginning movements. You're freeing up the energy. You are moving into greater meaning, movement, and forward momentum in a particular aspect of your life, in a particular area, as it pertains to moving out of lack and limitation and descriptors and labels into a much more freer way of being, where there is not only the meeting of needs, but an expansion radiantly to such a degree that you are standing in showers of blessings. So an obvious one that can go on almost any treasure map is to count your blessings, to practice an attitude of gratitude, and to really bring your focus and attention to those things over and above what's missing in your life, or what you desperately need to shift from that into the blessing, the abundance that is there, the treasures that you do have. So the next thing that I do on my treasure map, once I've gotten all these different ideas, essentially, and ideas for forward movement, meaning momentum, and those actions that I can take, and the pathways I can follow. Once I've gotten all that down, I often will turn it over to the other side, and I will create a couple of mantras, or I call them life minders, reminders of how I can come to life and live in full expression in this particular area. And I'll write myself a couple of statements. Generally, I will do I am statements, and I am is a little acronym for your intention plus your action equals manifestation, or what you are, ways that you are moving into or connecting to greater momentum in a particular area. So I will maybe write, in this case, I am wealthy and abundant. Now, these are not affirmations to ignore what you need to do. You still have to take action, but these are helpful places to start clearing the energy and reminding yourself to move into that more positive frame and into receptivity, because that receptivity is going to connect you naturally to greater awareness and a capacity, an expanded capacity to receive and to thrive and to grow and to step into a more abundant way of living. And often what you'll find happens, so say, like you go through that next month and you don't see the money. Yet if you're practicing this, if you are living into the gratitude and you're, connecting to these pathways, you will feel freer, and you will at least feel different. Even if the circumstance, what's actually happening, is the same, you will shift into more and more of a stance of abundance and more thriving, like we talked about in the last video. And it may not be thriving. You may still have consequences that result from whatever situation is going on. And it takes what's the phrase? Like, it takes a while to turn the Titanic around, right? And so I think that's from a song by Amy Grant. I can't remember the name of it, but and I don't want to steal her lyric there, but it may take a while, and you may still be in the same situation. In fact, at times, because it took a while to get in this situation, it can take a while to right the ship, so to speak. It may be that it actually on paper looks worse, like when it comes to the financial situation, but you will feel differently, and that feeling will lead you into greater flow, and that flow will connect you into embracing a higher vision for your life. And that connectivity that you maintain to what is within you, that treasure, that ultimate state of abundance and thriving that you put on your treasure map, if you can continue to connect to that and to these statements or movements or actions that do put you in a position to notice more and more abundance in all the ways that appears, the wealth and the prosperity that is in your life, the more you do that, the more you shift into freeing the energy up and getting out of that stagnant place where all you can see is the hopeless situation. And when you're stuck in that, you're perpetuating it. You're in a loop, number one, in your mind and also in your actions at times. And you are actually creating more of that energetic pattern of lack and limitation. So I hope that that's helpful. If that treasure map does not resonate with you in terms of a soul simple life practice, if you are resistant to that, then find some other way to shift yourself into more expansion, a greater field of experience, a broader, wider lens that can shift you into abundance. And definitely go to that attitude of gratitude, because in that practice, I have never failed to feel more connected to a place where I can begin to see that there is abundance. So the last thing I'll say there is, for me, when I have had trouble with the practical actions, like, affirmations or creating these treasure maps or taking action to change things when I've been depressed or other times in my life, one thing that has always supported me is nature. And I would say for a lot of us, that is something that you can't deny. If you walk outside and you see that the sun is there and the stars are there and the moon and the wind, and that somehow the world is sustained, and there's this little chipmunk running around, or this rabbit or deer or other kinds of life, or flowers in the field, that will help. Anything natural and organic, where you see that there is an order and that somehow we can be held just like these things in the natural world. That's always helped me. So you might try that as well. Okay, so that was about the shift of from lack and limitation into abundance and expansion. So take a look at that and carry